Hey, how you guys doing? Michael X. Yeah, so the T110E5 full review. Now, I've already done a review on this, but it was before the buff, so I decided to go ahead and do it. Now, I was working on getting my second mark of excellence, but I'm sitting at like 80% right now, so I've been going up and down, and I've noticed some very strange things about this vehicle and the Chieftain, which are basically the fact that they almost never do 400 damage when you hit somebody. I also have noticed that for me personally, the AP shells are absolutely trolls. They either work or they do not work for me. And so in this video, you guys will see me using nothing but heat. And I'm going to go ahead and say if you can afford it. As you guys can see, I have 47 million. So, you know. Let's go ahead and go over all the stats. So 875 horsepower, 16.28 horsepower per ton, 37 forward, 12 in reverse, 20% chance of engine fire. The DPM on this is actually really good. 10 second reload, 2-second aim time, 0.35 accuracy, 15 degrees of elevation, 8 degrees of gun depression. Really good. Fire on the move's pretty decent. It is a heavy tank, so I mean I usually stop and fire, but if you're close enough, you can shoot at top speeds. Very similar to the Chieftain. All right, so 30 degrees of rotation. Terrain resistance is okay. 400 meters of view range. 32 degrees of turret rotation. 745 meters signal range with the radio, and of course the ammunition, which is 258 with AP, and you get heat that's high explosive anti-tank rounds for 340 for 400 for both of those, 60 for the HE for a possible 515. Now I'm going to go ahead and tell you that on average I'm doing like 320 damage with this vehicle per shot, which just makes me question whether you would even want to use it. Now, of course, I do want to go ahead and let you know that this video I'm making is being done on 3/11/2018. So this could change. But as far as I can tell, all guns that are 120 are not hitting 400 damage on average. Seriously. So looking at the armor, you guys can see that it's got the same armor, but it does have the nerfed commander's hatch. But I'm going to go ahead and say that on console, if you can get this thing in a, let's say 6 to 8 gun depression, this hatch is unpinnable. And the bottom plate, although can be pinned, very difficult. It has areas on it that will bounce heat. It's just very difficult to hit. Sometimes you know it's really RNG dependent on the other person's team. I'm gonna go ahead and say the worst tank to run into in the E5 is another E5. It does have one of the highest pinning heat rounds of heavy tanks, which is 340 millimeters of pin for 400 damage. Now, keep in mind that I'm gonna keep on telling you guys that getting anything above 400 is very, very rare. Even when I did this video, I actually was noticing that I was getting some games where I was high rolling. But you guys can see here that on flat ground you should be able to pin this thing with standard shells. I mean, you should have 10 more penetration with AP to go right through, but gonna go ahead and say that doesn't mean that that's what's gonna happen. This video kind of shows I picked this particular video specifically because of the RNG. So, is it called Thiepel Ridge? This isn't one of my favorite maps, but I will say that the E5, it brings a lot of tools to the table. Now, it was once described as the jack of all trades but master of none. I'm gonna go ahead and say that that's actually changed now. This thing actually can do a medium tank job. You can also do a heavy tank job. And depending on RNG, the gun even can perform like a medium vehicle. So before we get into this game, I did want to let you guys know that this is during the silver weekend well, it was a silver week, wasn't it, where we had the silver bonus for tier 10 vehicles. So I made a good old 4 million silver just over a weekend. So, and that was firing nothing but heat. So before you go complaining and say I'm one of the reasons that this game's broken, just realize that I am sitting at 47 million silver, and it's not purchased, it's earned. So so I wanted to go ahead and go over all the perks that I have on this vehicle. Now, of course, I didn't get them in this order. I actually got them in a completely different order. So I'm going to try and give it to you in the order that I would like to have done it. So I got 6 Cents, Brothers in Arms, Track Mechanic, Repairs. I got Smooth Ride Snapshot, Clutch Braking, Off-Road Driving, Safe Stowage, Preventive Maintenance, and I'm working on firefighting. I'm actually sitting at 95% on firefighting in this game. So without these perks, I'm going to tell you that you will not be able to play this vehicle like this. I mean, yeah, I use equipment, I use ventilation, gun rammer, and enhanced gun laying drive. I have never been one that has liked vertical stabs, and although you do get higher percentage, like this tank actually can use vertical stabs very well. If it's your play style to basically come around a corner, fire on the move, it's definitely going to increase your odds of that by 20%. But I'm going to go ahead and say that while sitting still and not moving your turret, you can get shots in really fast. So 2-second aim time on this, which is very, very handy. That's medium speeds. Now, of course, with enhanced gun laying drive, that gives you 10% towards your aim time. So we're looking at, you know, with ventilation, we're looking at about 2.8 or so, 2.85, which enables me to make shots like that and back up. So in this situation right here, vertical stabs would actually be preferred. But I'm going to go ahead and say that I find myself in the E5 when I fight. I like to side scrape a lot. So there's kind of like a sweet spot in this vehicle. If you guys were looking at the armor viewer, the ammo racks on this are absolutely in the worst places ever. Like what I'm doing right now, I would never do if I hadn't seen that guy fire. And I've been counting, believe me, I'm counting those E100's shots, because they have, next to the tank that I'm in, they have the highest pinning heat rounds in the game. So 340 is the highest. So the T110E5 also has 340. Now during this weekend, I noticed that the E100, even at super steep angles, if you have RNG, like I absolutely would pin every single shot on a mouse or E100, no matter how much they angled. And then on other games, nothing. You guys could see that he actually hit my hatch there and it didn't do anything. So he was actually able to make the shot, but it really didn't do anything. So this is kind of a waste of ammo right there. Seriously, it's kind of a waste of ammo. He's looking for shots and, you know, yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and say that during this weekend, I probably should have loaded more heat. So I want you guys to keep in mind and check out the rolls. So look at how much damage I did. 422, that's pretty high. That's probably the highest I've seen since this weekend. Let's check out this one. Was that 390? It looked like it was 390. Let's see if we can get any other kinds of rolls, get an idea. I could not see that. It looked like it was 390. Yeah. 356? Is that what it said? 356? Could be wrong. I did do a mathematical calculation. So there's 403. I was going to say that wouldn't it be really nice if they gave us a I'm just going to say a damage calculator, maybe right above the writing, where it tells you how much damage you've done, you know, kind of like they have on PC. So look at that, 456. That's a hugely high roll. That's probably the highest, yeah, that you're going to see in this game. And then 376. 376 kind of low. It's not terrible. I will say if you get enough penetrations, it will kind of equal itself out. You know what I mean? To where your average is still 400. But I have been in games in the T110E5 where I have fired 4 rounds and did only 1,300 damage. That's like basically about 320 a shell, which is kind of weird because one of them was like for 400, one of them was for like 310, and then one was for 340, and so it just equaled out to be like 1,360 damage, but it should be 1,600. So I've noticed that this tank and also the Chieftain are notorious for you know, for low rolls. Now, do keep in mind that this is being recorded on 3/11/2018. So yeah, if you're watching this, things can change. If you're finding that you're doing higher rolls, obviously they've updated the game. For instance, as you guys can see, last heat shell on bottom plate, which was really not needed. And if you look, he's kind of looking to the right. So I thought, hey, I'll take a gamble with an AP shell and maybe it'll pin. 343, not really a reward, but you know, I'm like, hey, maybe I'm having some really good RNG with these standard shells. Which I'm going to go ahead and say that in 8 gun depression, like he is right there, I should not be able to pin him. But of course, with RNG, you can pin anything if you have super shells, which, as you guys can see, that was able to pin him when it, you know, it really probably shouldn't have. So, like I said, RNG plays a huge role in the game these days. So yeah, this tank is a heavy tank with medium gun handling, high DPM. It definitely can sit in another crowd of heavies. You do not want to go off solo. You do want to be in a crowd. It is a really fun, I'll say, platoon vehicle. Super fun platoon vehicle. Look at that 409. And a good snap out too, as you guys see. And I really enjoy firing and then letting go and watching that round go over there so I can see what kind of damage I'm actually doing. This is kind of a strange thing because if you guys really want to know, AP shells should actually be more accurate and higher pinning at longer distances than any shell in the game except heat. And I will go ahead and tell you guys that during the, you know, we're talking 2018, March of 2018. Right now for me, I've noticed that RNG with AP shells have been hit and miss. I really can't tell, to be honest, if the RNG is dependent upon what I actually use. Like, as you guys can see, I've fired all my heat shells. I have used my track repair kit for just a track, not even for a module damage. Which is, you know, that's a good, was it 20,000 for the track repair, and then we're talking probably 100,000. So I'm trying to save a buck here, and I managed to hit my own tank there, as you guys seen. I was hoping to get a good magic shot there. You could see him sitting out in an open field and just taking shots like a champ, and that is pretty much the E5 in a nutshell. Now, are you going to have bad games in this? Yes, you are. You are going to get trashed sometimes. Sometimes you're going to get ammo racked and then ammo racked again and then watch your turret pop. And then other games you're going to feel like a king. This is one of those games. So, yeah, to go ahead and cover the last little bit of what I wanted to talk about on this, if you play this on the move constantly, seriously, like that hatch, if you sit still, can be pinned by heat, and it can be pinned by standard shells from medium tanks, but at 100 meters and beyond, you're pretty safe. So you can stop and fire and sit there, just be worried about arty. But if you're up close and you just kind of turn your tank to the right a little bit and then move back and forth, it's incredibly difficult in some lobbies to hit that turret, and then other times people will pin it every shot. So random number generator all the way. I'm going to go ahead and say that, is it in the favor of the E5? I'm going to say it's definitely always in the favor, you know, of the E5. But I'm going to go ahead and say that sometimes the 120 on this really underwhelms you, especially if you're paying 4,800 a shell and you see that you're doing 320 or 339. Because that's just, for me, is something I don't really enjoy. And I've noticed this vehicle and anything that has super high DPM recently has been balanced out to not do as much damage. And it's become really difficult to play this vehicle, and I'm going to go ahead and say that this was actually one of my last games in it before I kind of, you know, I still play it in comp when needed. It is a really great all-around vehicle that I do enjoy playing, but I'm going to go ahead and say that when you're shooting standard shells, and, you know, you're, you know, on big open maps, tank destroyers can just rip you. You know, if a Hesh round from a Death Star hits that hatch, it usually does max damage. I've been one-shotted by artillery, you know, getting hit in the side of the turret with AP armor-piercing shells. So, you know, keep in mind, like I said, you're getting a heavy tank with high, you know, high DPM. That means its rate of fire is really quick. It's really good in a platoon. Like if you got a T-57 heavy friend and he needs to reload, you can actually sit there and keep shots going down range. You also got heat that can pin 340 millimeters, which is very ominous. You can side scrape like this, just like a Russian tank. You know, the things you have to be careful of are tank destroyers. E3s, E4s will eat you alive. So in this game, as you guys seen, we didn't really run into any tank destroyers. We ran into a Jaggeru, but if we would have ran into some, well, it wasn't a Jaggeru, it was actually a Jagdpanzer. So yeah, just keep that in mind. 16 pins should be 6,400 damage, but we did kill 2 tanks for one. I think it was like 275 and one was for like 160. So it should be around 6,100. Yeah, 6138, and I blocked 3960. Is this an average game in this vehicle? No. I'm going to go ahead and say that I go anywhere from 2,500 a game to 6,000. It just depends on RNG. But other than that, do I really enjoy this vehicle? Yes. Does it have everything I like in a heavy? No. It is missing some stuff. I'm going to go ahead and say that I really wish it didn't catch on fire quite as much, and I really wish the gun on it would hit harder and you know, high roll more. Maybe it's my connection, maybe it's just bad luck, but that's how I feel about it. But yeah, here you can see doing almost double damage. Those mouses in the game that were on the other team really gave me a lot of health, and I'm going to say that make it 98,000 silver. I already miss the silver weekend. I already miss it. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Comment, like, and subscribe. Let me know if you'd like to see more like this. And have a good one. Later.